Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday, and sometimes Fridays. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand, Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. This is take 2. I just recorded all of Mini Scroll and it wasn't recording. Fun. Okay, before I get into the stories for today, I wanted to let you guys know that I was on the ABC radio on Friday here in Australia, which is so cool. I'll put the episode in the show notes. So I was on their Media Land. It's like a podcast / radio show. So it goes up every Friday at 5:30 on ABC Radio. And then it also goes up as a podcast. So I got the email on Wednesday and then I did a phone call on Thursday and then I went in on Friday and it was so cool. We talked about influencers as a gendered term. We talked about the disproportionate amount of hate that women commentators get versus male commentators and a whole host of other things. It was very cool and it was very legitimizing. It felt so big for like my imposter syndrome. It felt like a really big moment being taken very seriously as an expert in this space. It was very cool. So yes, I will put a link down below. All right, let's get into the stories for today. So first, I'm going to give you guys an update on the Kayla Malec, Evan Johnson, Be Better, James Charles situation. I'm not going to recap everything that's happened because I've talked about it so many times over the past couple of weeks on this podcast. However, James Charles, Kayla, and Be Better have all done other responses over the weekend. There's been some developments, so I'll cover those. As we know, James Charles last week, he made a video basically like scolding people on the internet for dragging him into this situation as he was rumored to be very friendly with Evan Johnson, even after Kayla Malec had come out about his abuse against her. So Kayla Malec is a TikTok influencer. She was dating a man named Evan Johnson. James Charles is obviously a very huge influencer / YouTuber. And yes, James and Evan allegedly got quite close after Kayla and Evan broke up. And according to texts that Kayla showed, James did know that he had abused Kayla. Be Better is that TikTok creator who does like the Downfall of series where he basically talks about like marketing and PR strategies that have gone wrong for different celebrities, creators, politicians. And now he did this long form interview with Evan Johnson's ex-best friend and they basically dragged James Charles into it. Okay, so Kayla made 3 videos in response to the whole situation with James. And here were the main takeaways. She said she didn't appreciate that James made a response video like hours after the hearing. So Evan had a hearing last week and he was sentenced. And within like hours, James had made his video. She said she wanted more time to like relish in that without having to like get back on the internet and talk about it all. She does say she stands by the allegations that she had told James that Evan abused her and he still chose to get close to Evan. And she says she thinks that James's response video was bullshit and it pissed her off. And then Be Better made his own response video to James, because James talked about Be Better in Zach's interview and stuff in his response video. But then Be Better was also responding to critics who basically said he had used Kayla's situation for clout.
So I want to start by addressing the narrative that is honestly the most hurtful to me, which is that I did this interview for attention or financial gain or to monetize the horrific trauma experienced by Kayla. So I just want to be clear about the facts. I invested my own money from my own pocket in producing this interview, knowing full well it would be a financial loss to me, purely because I felt it was a story, and still very much feel it is a story, that the world deserved to know, in which one of the biggest influencers on the planet is a now self-admitted abuse enabler. Number 2. The small amount of money that was made from the interview, I believe it was about $1,500, was already donated to a domestic violence charity called No More. I learned about them during the Blake Lively case, and it was donated in Kayla's name, and that was my plan from the very beginning. In addition to that, the only reason this interview existed in the first place is because it was a story that Kayla wanted the world to know. And had it not been for her direct involvement, for her blessing and her encouragement, I never would have done the interview in the first place. And if at any point in time she changed her mind, I would have pulled the plug on the entire thing.
Look, I think there could be some truth in what Be Better is saying, But I think the reality is that we have watched him, like I said, make these videos tearing down creators, celebrities, politicians under the guise of like analyzing their PR strategies, saying he has this like extensive marketing background, when in reality, his analyses are very often like the most basic marketing principles. And he has very little knowledge of a lot of the people that he talks about, at least in the early days. Like, I would watch some of his Kardashian videos and I'm like, this person has never seen the Kardashians if this is what he is claiming. So, yeah, I think he does do these videos for clout. I do think he makes this content for clout. And, like, okay, sure, that's part of the internet, that's part of what social media is for. But I'm just not about him being on this like moral high ground of trying to like hold all these people accountable when at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you probably did just want to use this moment to raise your profile, in my opinion. Okay, now James has responded to Kayla's videos. In Instagram stories, he wrote, I watched Kayla's videos last night, and I'm grateful that she did not feed into the lies that she was told by Zach as in the person that was interviewed by Be Better, while also expressing how I upset her. I said it in my original video, and I'll say it again. Kayla, I'm sorry that I was ever involved with this compulsive liar, and I'm even more sorry that my involvement hurt you. He then shared screenshots proving that Evan had reached out to him multiple times and that he was basically trying to like end the whole situation. He said he offered to share these texts with her privately before putting them up publicly. And then he finished by saying, I'm happy that Kayla got justice for what Evan put her through. And like she said, she deserves to celebrate. I genuinely wish her the best and pray that she continues to win with her abuser staying behind bars. Okay. I think this whole situation hopefully is just going to go to bed for Kayla's sake. I think she just needs the internet to stop talking about this, all these high profile people to stop covering it. I think it just needs to be case closed for her so she can actually start to like move on. But yes, hopefully this is over for Kayla's sake. Okay, the next story that I have for you guys is celebrity makeup artist Mary Phillips has quoted a bride $100,000 for her wedding glam, and the internet is divided. So earlier this month, a creator took to TikTok to share that celebrity makeup artist Mary Phillips had quoted her friend $25,000 as a day rate for doing her makeup, and then all of these add-ons, which essentially brought it to $100,000 to do her friend's bridal makeup. She framed this video as like, I feel so bad for 2025, 2026 brides. Wedding vendors are out of control, okay? So her initial video got 1.5 million views, but it is really blowing up now because a professional makeup artist has made their own video talking about this and defending Mary Phillips, and that has really exploded. It's become very heated. A lot of people are like, makeup is never worth that much. Makeup washes off. It's disgusting that somebody would quote a rate that is more than what a lot of people in a lot of countries make per year doing like very difficult, meaningful work, like being a nurse, a teacher, those types of fields. And I was kind of in this camp at first until I listened to more opinions and started to look at Mary Phillips as a creative as opposed to like a quote unquote bridal makeup artist / like wedding vendor. Because I think one of the biggest points that is being misunderstood here is that the wedding industry, it is out of control. It is. Like, I was supposed to be a 2020 bride. Well, I was a 2020 bride, but I was supposed to have like, an actual wedding in 2020. Obviously, COVID happened. So I was planning a wedding pre-2020, pre-COVID, and then we had to cancel that. And after we were looking at, okay, what could we do now? The prices had literally increased by like 30%. And it was like, what the hell? Okay, like we're obviously not going to do this. So we did a 20-person COVID wedding at a restaurant. I've been on either side of it, planning a wedding pre everything exploding, and then, post looking at it and being like, that's not feasible. So I feel very bad for anybody who is trying to plan a wedding now because it is astronomical. It is shocking how much weddings cost now. But Mary Phillips is not a bridal makeup artist. Like, she is in the top 1% of creatives in her field. So her rates reflect not just the craft and her artistry, but also her profile. So what Mary Phillips charges should have no bearing on what bridal makeup artists are charging because it's basically comparing apples and oranges. And it should not be in the same conversation of like wedding vendors are out of control because she's not a wedding vendor. If you wanted Calvin Harris to DJ at your wedding, would you expect his rate to be similar to like the local wedding DJ in your region? No. Is that because Calvin Harris is the best DJ on the planet? Also, no. It's because he's famous. Would people on TikTok be pissed if Calvin Harris quoted a couple like, I don't know, $1 million to DJ at their wedding? Probably also no. People would be like, that makes sense. It's Calvin Harris. People would actually be coming for the couple for expecting that Calvin Harris would even entertain DJing at their random wedding. In the beauty world, Mary Phillips is Calvin Harris, okay? Like, she is very famous. She is very sought after. Mary Phillips is not just a celebrity makeup artist. She is the 1% of makeup artists who are doing like all of the A-list celebrity it girls makeup. She is doing Hailey Bieber for the Met Gala. She is doing Kendall Jenner for the Vanity Fair's Oscar party. Like, she is doing everyone who is setting trends for young women right now. She is doing their makeup. She is in the 1%. And I was talking to my friend Crystal Andrews, who runs Z-Feed, about this, and she used this metaphor, which I really liked. She said, when it comes to creative work, especially for those who are in the top 1%, there are two buckets that work opportunities can fall into. The first, there's the opportunities that raise their profile and build their reputation. So like if you're a photographer, that might be shooting the cover of Vogue. If you're a makeup artist, that could be doing an A-list celebrity's makeup for the Met Gala. If you're Calvin Harris, that might be headlining like Tomorrowland or something. I don't really know. I don't know what DJs want to do, okay? These opportunities don't necessarily pay well, and sometimes they don't pay at all. But the payment is the profile, the reputation building, right? So no, Gigi Hadid is not paying Mary Phillips $100,000 to do her makeup for the Met Gala. But that's because doing Gigi's makeup for the Met Gala gives Mary those opportunities that fall into bucket 2. The second bucket, bucket 2, is the commercial opportunities. And the work in the first bucket dictates how much you can charge in the second bucket. So in this bucket, it would be like working on a brand's advertising campaign. So Mary Phillips doing the makeup for an ad campaign on all the models for some like big brand, right? And brands want to work with these creatives who have a really big and exciting and creative and cool and artistic bucket 1, because that elevates their profile in their industry, right? Is having a commercial or a campaign shot by some really high profile editorial photographer who constantly does all this cool shit for like Vogue or whatever, like that elevates the brand's profile. But the brands have to pay for that, right? And so the creatives who do a lot in bucket 1 and have these big opportunities, they can charge a lot for bucket 2. So if the job that you are pitching to the creative does not fall into the profile building bucket, which would be doing a random person's makeup for their wedding, then it must fall into bucket 2 for these people, because the only benefit of doing that work would be the money. Is Mary Phillips' rate $100,000 for a commercial campaign? Probably not. Like, why would she quote a random bride $100,000? Because she doesn't want to do it, but she'll do it for $100,000. Because if you think about it as well, a brand who has lots of money for a campaign or a commercial or whatever, they could keep coming back to Mary Phillips. Her doing your wedding makeup for the same rate, first of all, she doesn't want to do it, but even if she did, she has to charge you more because it's not a repeat client in theory. You're not going to be getting married multiple times in theory. You might, but in theory. So she has to make that worth her time and worth her while. Do I think she should have just said, I don't really do this type of work. I'm not taking new clients. I don't do these types of jobs. I don't know, maybe. I kind of come from the world, which is why I was in this mentality to start with. Like, I come from the world of, beauty YouTube, where the YouTubers back in the day would put like very visibly on their social medias, on their pages, like, I do not take clients. Do not message me to do your makeup just because you're like a fan of the channel. Like, I'm not going to do it, basically. So I kind of thought initially, like, why would she not just say that? But Mary Phillips is a working makeup artist still. So I think that is why. It is still that professionalism to like respond to an inquiry, but like, who is realistically going to Mary Phillips for their bridal makeup? Like, it is Hailey Bieber. It is not me. Like, it's not like a random girl. And it's kind of insane to reach out to her and be like, I reached out to this well-known makeup artist. This is not a well-known makeup artist. Like, she is in the 1%, okay? So the conflation of Mary Phillips being like a wedding vendor and the conversation being around like how expensive weddings are makes no sense. That completely diminishes Mary Phillips' career. It's completely inaccurate. Like, she is not a bridal makeup artist. She is not a wedding vendor. And it has nothing to do, like, what Mary Phillips charges for her wedding makeup to do a random person's wedding makeup should have no bearing on what any other bridal makeup artist is charging, because she is in the 1% of makeup artists in the world. She is the Calvin Harris of makeup artists, okay? And I think because makeup is like a behind the scenes thing, whereas, you know, being like a DJ or whatever, like an entertainer, like asking Beyonce to perform at your wedding, like nobody would do that. But I think there's less understanding of the creative work behind the scenes. So yeah, she's like a quote unquote well-known makeup artist, but no, she is like in the 1%. And I guess unless you follow that industry, you might not know that. This is crazy. I actually saw somebody on TikTok be like, she only has 300,000 followers. I can't believe that she would charge this. Mary Phillips' follower count actually has nothing to do with what she's charging and why she charges that. In fact, a lot of people who work behind the scenes in creative fields who are like at the top of their game have like very little social presence at all. And you have no idea who they are, okay? So her having 300,000 followers literally means nothing. But yes, like she is not as quote unquote famous as like Calvin Harris. I guess I'm the #1 Calvin Harris fan in the world. I don't know why I keep saying him, because, you know, her job is not like public facing in the same way that entertainment would be. But that is the equivalent, okay? Mary Phillips, Calvin Harris, okay? Anyways, the last story that I have for you guys is that Chappell Roan's comment section has blown up this indie perfume brand, and I feel like there is an interesting lesson here for us. Over the weekend, Chappell Roan posted an Instagram carousel. It's actually cool. She has like a different color hair. I don't know if she's wearing a wig, but I thought it looked good. It's like a little bit more blonde. And she wrote in the caption, "Will the girl who I just met at the perfume store please comment the perfume you recommended? I wrote it down and just deleted it on accident. The word girl was in the brand name and you said it smelled like lipstick. Thank you." There were 2 main brands named. The first was Good Girl by Caroline Herrera, and the second was Girl of the Year by Thin Wild Mercury. The founder of Thin Wild Mercury made a TikTok video saying that she started getting all of these orders over the weekend, and she was like, this is so random, like obviously exciting, but like what's going on? And she was confused. And then she saw that her brand was getting tagged all over Instagram. And she was like, what the hell? Opened Instagram and she saw it was Chappell Roan's comment section. And when you look at the perfume, you'll see that one of the top notes is lipstick. Like the first top note is lipstick. So it's probably her brand. But I wanted to talk about how this really just exemplifies one of the major things that I talk about with brands and reaching Gen Z through partnerships specifically, which is like you need to find ways to gauge how culty a creator, an influencer, a podcaster, a media brand, even a company like a consumer brand is before investing. I believe cultiness is actually a metric that should be measured in advertising and marketing. And it is in some ways, like it's not called cultiness, but I really think they need to like implement how culty is this person, is this brand, is this influencer, and here's the ways to measure this. So I think one of the best ways to measure cultiness is, and I tell brands this, is to go to comment sections and do audits. Go to comment sections and see, are people commenting? What are they commenting? Are they commenting in ways that make you think that they know the creator, that they follow the creator, that they feel invested in the creator or the podcast or the media brand or the consumer? Or are they commenting about the opinion, the content itself? Search them up on Reddit. Have fans started subreddits about them, whether it's for a product, like I said, or if it's about like a creator, a podcast, a media brand. Are people talking about them? Are they being recommended in forums where people are asking for different recommendations and suggestions? If they have a YouTube channel, go into that. Are people commenting about the creator, about the podcast, about the media brand, about the product itself, and not necessarily always about the content, right? Because you can tell from what the comments say if people are actually like engaged with this person, this brand, or if they're just commenting about the content that they're seeing because this video got served to them on a For You page or it got served to them on a recommendation page on YouTube or whatever. Are these genuine fans Does this brand, this podcast, this creator have genuine fans? Are they building a culty audience? And I think this is case in point, because the power of this comment section, there were lots of people suggesting other perfumes, but this one really broke through because of how culty this brand is. They don't even have 100,000 followers, but they're culty, and people were so excited to see that, oh my God, it could have been this brand. And I do think it was, like, a lot of the things pointed to it, but I still think people were like so excited to see, oh my God, this brand, this like indie brand that I know is probably getting the shout out on this huge celebrities page. And they were so excited to comment that and to share that. Because Chappell didn't mention the perfume name, she didn't mention the brand, but this brand has genuine fans, culty fans. They've built this culty audience, this culty consumer base. Yeah, I thought that was a nice one to end on. I thought it was very cool. Anyways, guys, that's it for Mini Scroll today. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 10,000 YouTube subscribers and 1,000 Spotify star ratings. I love you, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.